We're standing in front of 2014 Nissan GTR, all-wheel drive, 545 horsepower. In the bicycling world, someone will correct me and I'll look it up, and I'm getting too old, but all the components, the shifters, the brakes and stuff, were all made in Italy. And they're all called like Colombo or something, and I'll look it up. It was sort of Colnago or something, super expensive, super nice stuff made in Italy. And then what Japan did is they came up with Shimano, and they essentially made the same stuff, twice as light, half the price, worked exactly the same.
Pretty much.
And so this is a version of what the Japanese do. You could buy a turbo Porsche.
Yeah.
You could buy a Ferrari 458.
Yep.
You could buy a Superleggera Lamborghini Gallardo at twice the price.
Yes.
Or you could buy this car.
And the truth is, I don't know that any of those cars are going to be as quick as this one is, at least 0 to 60.
Yeah, and to be fair, part of what you're paying for is sort of prestige. But if you're just looking for neck-snapping performance and braking, 0 to 60 braking is under 100 feet.
So yeah, the 60 to 0 in this car was tested by Edmunds.com at 98 feet. Like, that's crazy supercar territory.
Yeah, I mean, the 100 feet, I mean, I could remember when my M3 was, 120 feet, and it was like a big deal,
Oh yeah.
Under 100 feet and the braking's insane.
Is nuts. Anything like 110, 112, that's damn near supercar territory. To go 98.
Campanola.
There you go.
The name.
Thank God you remembered.
Italian.
It was killing me.
Campanola is the Italian company that made the high-end componentry. Yeah.
So this is a car that goes incredibly fast due to its technology. It's just, it's not, it's the exact opposite of your American muscle cars that have an insane amount of power. They're fun to drive. They make tons of noise. This is the exact opposite. Whereas a GT500 has 662 horsepower. This has 545, 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. All-wheel drive just sticks like glue in this car. And it still weighs like 3,800 pounds, something like that, 3,800 pounds.
Right, and as I say all the time to everybody, it's how much horsepower are you getting to the wheels?
Yeah.
And what are you getting to the pavement, not what's under the hood, because we can all just take a Chevelle and put a big block in it and get 800 horsepower out of it. But if we're just sitting in one place lighting up the rear tires, while it looks cool, we're not moving anywhere.
Now, it's still
3.1 is...
Yeah, and this is still, in my mind, still a purpose-built car. Sure, it's street legal, you drive it on the street. I would be fine driving this car every day, but you were just in it, you were driving it as well. It's still a little bit of a rough ride. You still hear that clanking from the transaxle, but I think that's part of its charm. It has a little bit of that supercar, more race car feel to it.
It feels very solid. It feels very substantial. You don't feel like you're buzzing around in a Lotus and you're vulnerable. This feels very substantial, very safe. If you put on the brake, it's not going to pull hard to the left.
Right.
You're going to stop. And because it's a Nissan, feels like, I don't know what the difference in maintenance for the first 100,000 miles, maybe 50,000 miles of this car versus a Honda Accord.
Well, you're going to be surprised. The maintenance on this car is not cheap. A little bit like your Aston Martin, where right when you get the car, they're like, well, drive it for the first like 4,000 miles, and then you got to take it in, and you got to get it looked at and inspected, and all the fluids changed. That's just the first break-in. I think this car has something similar, or at least it did when it was first coming out after about 7,000 miles.
But I do get the feeling that once, and maybe that's part that comes with the territory, but once you do that, you can probably just drive this thing.
And I think it's a great, reliable car. The maintenance certainly isn't Ferrari 360 or 458 maintenance. A
great color combination, by the way, the sort of pearl white with the red interior. Oh, they've added some red.
Yeah. This car has, when you mentioned the interior, has the premium package on the interior, which is the stitched leather in the seats, which isn't quite diamond stitch, but it has that almost Italian look. If you look at it, it has a little bit of GTO in it.
And what do you think this car, as it sits now, retails for?
This car is $104,000 with a few of the upgrades, which is like the the interior package. That's really the only upgrade on this car.
So on
There's a track package and there's
the
the
hand-built
red
engine,
or something.
by the way. Smells exactly like my 350Z smelled interior. It's like I don't know how
that's
different
just something
car
about
companies just have their own smell. This smells like a Nissan.
You get in it and it smells like a
Why
Japanese
don't you
car.
fire it up? Now, it's transmission. It has paddle shifts. It has an automatic mode. Is there any other configuration?
No, this is the only way you can get it.
Right. Okay.
Even when you start it, you hear that little bit of clank in the transaxle.
I do like the two-piece rotors in the rear. Sometimes they just go with the two-piece in the front.
Yeah.
And the
it's
massive front calipers on this thing.
It's got 285 20s all the way around. But
It's 285 all the way around.
Yeah,
well,
but
it's all-wheel drive.
But I believe it's a 40 series in the front and 35 in the back. Or at least that's what this car has.
Okay.
Already it's limiting my RPM.
The smoked rims look good. Thing looks good. So
It won't let me rev more
right.
than 4,500
All right.
right now, but
well, you can shut it down.
but the launch control in this thing, which they call race start, I think, is nuts. It's violent in a fun, exciting way. This thing,
and it's
shoots
angular,
like a rocket.
It's stealthy. It looks good, and so the bad news is it's a $100,000 Datsun. The good news is it'll kick the ass of really anything that is 50 to 100 grand more,
Yeah.
with the now possible exception of the Z06.
the new Corvette is probably 0 to 60 in around 3.9 or something, so it's not quite there yet. We'll see what happens with a new ZR1 or a new ZR.
This car's a lot more
but
finesse, a lot more technology.
Yeah,
But
it's
the
fast.
Vet's probably 15, 20 grand cheaper,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So if you want just pure balls to the wall, bang for your buck, you might go with the Vet. If you're looking for a little more finesse and a little more European flavoring, even if it comes from Japan, I'd say I'd take this car over the Vet all day.
This is the ultimate sleeper, in my opinion.
At this point. And again, you can probably get first and second generations of these cars, which, you know, I believe they came out about 4 years ago.
Yeah, with 480 horsepower, but they were still fast.
And you put a chip and a cone air filter
Yeah, some
on
exhaust
them,
on it.
and
It's nuts.
the styling looks to me almost the same.
Yeah.
And I don't know if some of those are floating around eBay for 55 grand or what have you.
I don't know, let's check that out.
But,
I'd be curious to know.
I would be curious to know, because for a car that had just a ton of performance that hasn't really changed much and that is pretty bulletproof, and chances are the owners were single owner, low driver,
Yeah.
non-smoker.
Now keep in mind, this is still a tuner car. You can take this over to Stillen and you know, it can make this thing 600-700 horsepower all day long.
Right, but I'd be curious to see if we can't find some 09s with 33,000 miles floating around on them on eBay for 51K. That's the next challenge. Anyway, it's 2014, it's Nissan, it's GTR, and this thing's a world beater. So, until next time, this is Adam Carolla for Matt, the Motorator, DeAndrea, saying keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.